Hello and welcome to episode 88 of the Foundry Roundtable, the podcast exclusively covering the Foundry for Star Trek Online. I'm your tame Foundry author, Drogan1701. With me are two of the galaxy's most notorious bounty hunters, Greendragoon and Markhawkman.
I shot first.
Now
Well,
listen,
what were you expecting a Vorta from the Mirror Universe to do in her spare time?
well, I'll just tell you this. No disintegrations.
I prefer to force
Nice.
choke people into submission.
And welcome back to the show, Rogueenterprise. Just finding this all very amusing.
Definitely.
So in honor of your favorite meme, Rogueenterprise, we have, wow, much news. So Foundry.
I love it. I will never get tired of that meme.
No, especially because your dog looks like exactly like that dog. Or almost, as close
Almost,
as you get.
pretty much. Close enough, yeah.
Close enough. So first off, we have the two contest winners were announced, obviously Greendragoon and Hippie John. Unfortunately, they can't be spotlighted yet because the Foundry is down, and I'll talk about that in a second, but I wanted to ask Greendragoon if he has made any changes to the mission or is planning on it as soon as Foundry comes back up.
I was actually in the process of making changes when the Foundry went down. Mostly it's just related to that pathing issue in the sewer. So I got some extra steps, and there's like little drainage tube now where you can basically walk up without jumping. And the idea is hopefully it'll give the boss a path to get out. Other than that, it's just looking for typos, that sort of thing. I haven't made any significant changes.
So everyone, as soon as Foundry comes back up, Greendragoon wants to know exactly what he did wrong with his typos and things like that. So play the mission and tell him, be as mean as you possibly can.
Because I will not be able to change it and have to take it.
I honestly, I don't think I remember seeing too many in yours.
Yeah,
Not a couple.
his didn't have much.
Hippie John is also in the chat room, so we can ask him if he's going to make any changes to his mission before hitting submit. But for you, Greendragoon, this will be your first spotlight.
Yes.
Very
Yay!
exciting.
Hey, congratulations. You deserve it.
Yeah. Hippie John, of course, will have two, one on the KDF and one on the Fed side, both of which are contest winners. I was joking with him last night, I guess, actually. I said, you already have, he was talking about the next challenge, and he said, I just keep entering these things. And I said, well, just, let somebody else have the glory, why don't you? He said, it's not my fault. I keep making, things that people want to vote for. So he says he is working on replacing and repositioning some of the mobs in his mission. Obviously, he was working on that because, as I alluded to earlier, the Foundry is down. We learned when the patch notes went up for the anniversary update that the Foundry would be offline following the update. Learned from Zeronius Rex later that it was to do a republish of all missions. I actually think that's probably a very good thing because I have a suspicion that it will be necessary to slot them into this new top 3 system that we were going to have to do a republish anyway.
By the way, you remember that thing where missions would become automatically unpublished after a certain amount of time?
Yes.
Yeah, last time I logged into Champions Online, I got 2 of those notifications there. And again, those notifications did not show up in Star Trek Online.
Well, pretty much any automated mail messages from the Foundry right now are not showing up in Stowe.
Yeah.
But you got to remember
Actually, I have noted that messages that you get because, or at least sometimes, for a message being successfully published will go to where they're supposed to go.
See, I don't even get those. Those all just show up in Champs for me.
Which is actually a great reason to have a Champions Online account.
I suppose. But in any case, the Foundry is down at the moment to do a republish of everybody. So I haven't seen any missions come back yet. So we're still waiting on that. As we know, it can take anywhere from a few days to weeks if something goes wrong. Hopefully nothing will go wrong. And when it comes back up, we'll actually see some missions slotted into this top 3 system, which we learned a few things about. Actually, after our last podcast, we learned that to qualify to show up in the list of missions that this thing pulls from, you have to not have any objectives or dialogue in between the first accept dialogue, the one window you're allowed there, and the entry to the mission. So you can't put any pop-up dialogue right after the accept dialogue, which a lot of us do. Cryptic Frost looked into it. He said he had heard from the team that they were going to look into allowing us to have dialogue for the first objective. So that hopefully will come out at some point, but it was not going to be ready for launch here. And I really hope they overcome that one, because so many of us use it.
I know that's something I'd kind of want to stress, is that this is an entirely new system. It is not going to work 100% out of the gate. It's going to require revisions and testing and all of that's good stuff. So constructive feedback is always important.
Yeah, and as soon as the Foundry comes back up, I'd love to see some people who, if you're around, if you see missions when you pull up to a star system, go ahead and post about it in the forums, because we want to know if it's actually working.
Yeah.
Because it did not seem to be working on Tribble. We because there's been a whole bunch of missions that were transferred back over to Tribble so that we could test things. One of them was Bazag's Purity number 2, which did not have any dialogue between the accept dialogue and the entry to the mission. And obviously it's a spotlight. It's very highly rated, so it should have shown up at the, I can't remember exactly the system, but it's in Beta Ursae somewhere. So it should have shown up there and wasn't. So we know there was something wrong there, and I'm hoping that this republish makes it work. In any case, we will have to wait and see.
Yeah, I was actually kind of hoping that I could have my Foundry character run around and collect Omega particles, but not anytime soon.
Mark likes to do things with his Foundry characters that none of the rest of us would think to do. So obviously,
well, it's fun.
Yeah. So obviously the big news is the anniversary update as well, which has many things in it here. One of which you're seeing on the screen right now, which is the Kobali Samsar Cruiser. This is the bridge that you get for turning in 1,000 Q mendations, I think is the ones that are for this event. I built up a whole bunch from last year, so I was able to get it on one guy, and they have the discount now, so easily enough to get it on this character, which I've actually made up using Kobali parts out of the character creator. Unfortunately, the Kobali parts we have in the character creator date back from launch, so they are not as good as the Kobali NPCs that we get now, sadly. So if anyone from Cryptic ever listens to this, could you please put the new parts in the creator? That would be awesome.
Actually, yours looks pretty convincing.
Yeah, I mean, it's decent, but it's not like if I'm by myself, it's decent. If I stand next to a Kobali NPC, you really see it.
I assume these are the same Kobali parts that we got in the Foundry back for Delta Rising launch.
This is correct. These parts have been in there forever. I don't know, who knows what the decision-making process was in Cryptic back at launch, of which alien parts do we make, because there were never any Kobali in the game until Delta Rising, but these parts were in there forever.
Well, also there are a bunch of things that are basically Alien of the Week body parts that got tossed in there. I guess just because the team that was making the things made that particular thing, like the Boslik forehead, that has never been used on any cryptic NPC anywhere ever in the game. Actually, I don't remember Cryptic even mentioning the existence of the Boslik. But you can make Boslik characters that look good by using things that have been in the game for who knows how long.
They ever show up in any of those exploration missions
Nope.
that you know
Yeah,
of?
I don't remember ever seeing one in game. I think maybe they just wanted a good variety of parts in there, maybe either for themselves to use even, or for the players to use.
That's my best guess.
So many other things in the anniversary update. Obviously, VOD warships from the lockbox, and plenty of things in the lockbox. The Omega particle scanning minigame, which is part of the method to get commendations for the ship, and also by itself gets you some rewards, which frankly I haven't done yet, so I don't know what the rewards actually are. Has anyone gotten far enough to see that?
For what?
For scanning the Omega particles?
You basically get
the reward is 40 commendations. Well, it's basically the same reward that you would get for the chasing mini queues thing last year.
Mm-hmm. But if you get up enough of these of the Omega particles you get after doing the mini game, you can turn them in for something, right?
It's Uber equipment upgrades.
Ooh, really?
Yeah.
So it's basically has a metric ton of technology points coupled with like a ×4 quality boost.
Well, heck, I better get farming then.
And it costs no dilithium.
Well, geez. I guess I know what I'm doing the rest of the weekend.
No, if you're willing to go through it, it's definitely a good reward.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm sure it takes a whole bunch of them. It takes a whole bunch of time.
It does. Okay. I think I did the math, and it came to like 50 something in total.
Wow.
But you can pick them up pretty easily.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. So they're all over all the social zones and things like that.
Yeah.
And when he says all the social zones, he means all the social zones.
Well, I think all of them that you can get to below level 50, as I understand it. Like the Dyson sphere zones, they're not in there. Things like that.
I
know if you get like a high enough score, you have a chance at like getting even a nicer version, which is a step up in the chain. So the scores do matter. Although at the moment I can't seem to get more than one.
You collected the red, yellow, and blue things in order to make slivers. And then you take 3 slivers, make them into something or other, a shard, I think, and then take 3 shards and then make them into a fragment. Then 3 fragments, then make them into an equipment upgrade.
So like a combination of the scanning minigame with the epo grinding.
Kind of.
There was a time when the Foundry was the only thing that I was interested in. Like, I wasn't playing the rest of the game at all, and now it's flipped. I definitely playing heavily the rest of the game versus the Foundry, which is bad news for my missions because then they don't get done.
I go through phases.
I'm sure I'll swing back to that at some point.
There will be a content drown at some point, and then you'll go back to it, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've been playing through one of the new things that we have, which is the new or remastered, I should say, Romulan arc, which is inspiring me to get off my butt and get my Romulan 5-part mission series that I made back when the Foundry started, back published. So I may try and grind that out real quick as soon as the Foundry gets back online, because I don't know, it's big 5-part series that is not published at the moment, which kind of sucks. But I have to play through this now a 4-part series that I don't know. It may require me to make some changes, maybe not. I was talking to Pax the other day on Twitter about this, and I don't really think I'll need to make any changes, because my mission series mostly deals with the state of the Empire all the way after the abduction of Sela at the end of the Riemann arc. So it's a long way from these missions, but we'll see. I've only got through the first one yet, which I quite liked. Had some great new maps in it. I don't know. Have you guys played this one yet? It's called Empress Sela.
I watched a YouTube video of someone doing a playthrough.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll take you through it real quick. In essence, you go to a peace conference, which, of course, if Sela is involved, means that you are, it's subterfuge for something.
Well, you remember what Admiral Akbar had to say, right?
Yes. He could very well be describing anything to do with the Romulans. And actually, something struck me as funny, because I was watching the other day the very first thing with the very first episode with the Romulans in TNG. It was the neutral zone. And they said something in there when they were researching the Romulans, because no one had seen Romulans in years at that point. And they said something like, they will trap you into starting the war yourself. And I felt like that's almost what Sela was maybe trying to do. I don't know. You guys have to play it for yourself and see. But in any case, you go there, you find out her subterfuge. It ends up with the Romulans are going to attack Vulcan. And you get to go defend Vulcan then. There's a nice big battle at the end. There's a neat bit where they have all your ships doing one of those tachyon detection grids like they did in Redemption. So there's a lot of good Trek callbacks in these episodes. They still have that model of Sela that I don't think is very good. I think they should have kept the old one.
The one that the people on the forums, what was it? Why did you make Sela look like a frog?
Well, I would put it more politely than that, but yeah, I don't particularly like that model.
To be honest, though, I went back, compared old Sela and new Sela with Sela in the TV show, and new Sela's a lot closer, really.
I mean, it doesn't not look like her.
It can be tricky to translate a real-life person into the CG world.
Oh, extremely.
Yeah, I think the main problem is that when you see Denise Crosby in the TV show as Sela, she looks attractive. And in the game, not as much.
Of course, it's also
30 years
later.
Well, this is true, but if
30 years later from the show,
if you work under the assumption,
Star Trek.
Yeah. But if you work under the assumption that she has the same longevity as Mr. Spock, you wouldn't expect her to be that old.
Well, and she's certainly not showing the same signs of age as other characters, like, say, Harry Kim. But I mean, at the same time, obviously, even for a Vulcan or a Romulan,
well, she's only
there's still going to be some. There's going to be some aging.
Most people in the chat room are wondering about my crew here, and yes, we actually are Kobali. We are space zombies. Deal with it.
And I had my Vorta character wear a variant of the Kobali uniform just for fun.
That is one of the awesome things that we got with this anniversary event is a reward for the featured episode, which we'll get to a little bit later, is the Kobali outfit, which is a fantastic outfit, I think.
Join us, P.
It does
Sutherland.
mix
Join
well
us.
with other outfits, but
It doesn't mix at all with other outfits. Not much anyway.
I like
Well,
it.
They have it as a separate category, don't they?
if you use the separate category, you only get Kobali pieces, but you do have the option to use certain pieces without choosing the separate category.
So let's talk about the featured episode. We have all played it except for Rogueenterprise, but we established as we were talking about this before the show that with all the stuff that Cryptic put out, it was almost impossible not to have the entire episode spoiled for you.
But just to be sure, spoiler warning. Spoiler warning.
Dragoon likes any excuse to put up his awesome spoiler animation.
Absolutely. I put a lot of work into that.
I'm just waiting for the delay here on the stream so I can see it, because it is awesome.
I need to put in a like the red alert klaxon or something.
Have it really loud so it just blows the ears out of anybody listening. Because hey, it's a red alert. You got to make sure everybody hears it. Can you imagine being the one ensign like asleep in your quarters, and people die because you didn't hear the red alert? You wouldn't want to be that.
The one ensign who's right next to the red alert speaker and gets his ears blown out every time it goes.
Permanently loses hearing.
Yeah. He's deaf and thus can't hear the red alert.
All right, so the featured episode, Dust to Dust. It starts with you hearing about a massive Vaadwaur attack, or at least the remnants of the Vaadwaur, after you redacted them in the main storyline, are attacking Kobali Prime. And you are sent in to help. You are asked for by name, apparently, by the Kobali, along with Mr. Kim and the Rhode Island. So you have a little space battle in which you drive them off, and then you take to the ground, and which is a really cool version of the Kobali ground map from the battle zone, which is set at night in the rain. It's very cool. Very definitely gets that Warzone feel.
Yeah,
and then you go in.
It was kind of a cool trench run.
Yeah.
Now, I played through this twice so far, and it seemed to me that the second time through, different things happened. And the second round, I met this Mako named something Cooper, who has to go beam out almost immediately. But it was kind of weird that he had a name and everything. Like he's going to show up again.
I don't remember meeting him.
Yeah, it didn't happen for me the first time. I should say the second time I played on a Romulan. I'm wondering if that had something to do with it, or if it was one of those random occurrences.
I'm sure I've played on a Romulan yet. Well, we know Cryptic can do some things now, which are like they can do some randomization, they can do some branching things, they can make it be a little bit different for you depending on how much, on what species you are and what faction you are. So I wouldn't be surprised if they keep doing those things.
Yeah.
Well,
but I mean, I thought that was a interesting occurrence.
Well, one thing I noticed on my second playthrough of Dust to Dust is that there are subtle differences in the mission depending on whether you're Federation or Romulan. Because at one point in the mission, if you're Federation, Captain Kim tries to have you talk some sense into his doppelganger by doing the I'm a Starfleet Admiral routine, but he's like, wait, you're not really Starfleet. You don't look like a real Starfleet officer, and basically ignores you. If you are a Romulan, it never has that dialogue pop up at all.
So we're getting from the chat room, people saying that they've seen the Mako on Fed, and people saying that they saw the Mako on first play but not second play. They were both Feds. So I think there's some randomization going on here.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that they actually named him.
Which is
and
good.
Stuff.
It's kind of fun, though. I'm going to have to look for him because one thing about the rewards for this that they did this year is each week they're adding a new reward. Part of the 4-piece space set that goes along with the Kobali ship. It must be said that they're not removing any of the other rewards each week. So, the first week you can get the ship with the warp core on its own. And, the first week you can get the, a Polaron beam array and the outfit. The second week you'll be able to get, now I don't know about those two, if those are going away at all, but second week you'll be able to get one part of the space set. Third week you're going to be able to get that part plus the next part. And fourth week you're going to be able to get all of them, as I understand it.
Well, the Polaron beam array is a standard Mark 12 blue array, so it's really not that good. One thing someone said in the chat room is that there's a bug that makes it so that you have to get the outfit in your first play of the mission.
Or you basically, it's the only time it's available.
Yeah, or you won't be able to claim it. I believe they're working on a fix for that.
Yeah.
It should be said that there are any number of bugs with this update. I can't really say if there are actually more than with any other update, but it kind of seems like a little bit of a perfect storm of bugs here. Because there are a number of bugs with the Omega game and all kinds of other things.
You got to remember, Cryptic Stow team only has 6 QA people on it. It's not Stow. It doesn't have a huge team. So
yeah, it's not Blizzard.
Yeah, no matter how,
and it's never going to be Blizzard. So
no matter how much testing they put into it, there's going to be stuff they miss. Just kind of one of those unfortunate facts of MMOs, really.
Mm-hmm. Pax is saying that in one of the new Romulan Arc episodes, they have been randomly inserting some of the hero NPC ships into the space battles. Like he saw the Rhode Island, and said somebody else saw Voyager.
Cool.
So back to Dust. From after your battle on the surface, you go into the temple, which, as we know from the Kowali missions.
One thing someone mentioned in the chat is that there's several different scenarios that can play out while you're working your way through the trenches.
I've only done the normal one. What have you done?
Well, I'm not talking about the hard, easy thing. What I saw is that there was one scenario where I helped the Gorn as a Romulan. I helped the Gorn set up a bunch of defense turrets to repel the Vadwar invaders. When I did it as Iridian, I found a group of injured Kobali and helped them. And those are the only two that I've seen so far. Because I've only played
I've gotten the injured Kobali one on each playthrough so far. So you do get those where you have the normal, medium, and hard difficulty. I've only done the normal difficulty, so I don't know how the rest play out. But I think you get accolades for doing the harder ones.
Yeah.
I need to try the very hard.
Yeah. One of these times I will.
Well, I tried it on hard the first time, and it wasn't too bad.
The very hard version of the scenario where you take out the Vadwar that are attempting to breach the temple was actually kind of like a one-sided curb stomping every time I've done it. Well, one thing I would have to recommend is use the bridge. Don't try to be sneaky and go around, because they stuck an invisible wall that prevents you from actually properly flanking the Vadwar. And the only other way, other than using the bridge, is to crawl up the embankment, which turned out to be horribly glitchy, because even though I was able to climb the embankment and my bops were willing to jump up onto the embankment, they were unwilling to climb up on top of the embankment. So they would just stand on the side of the embankment like they thought it was impossible to go any farther.
Yeah.
Now, see, we would get 1 star for that if that happened in our missions, right?
But again, if you just walk across the bridge, there's no significant issue with doing it that way. So I would recommend doing it that way.
That reminds me, everyone thinks that Make Diplomacy Go is too hard.
Really?
I know you guys don't really get to see the reviews, but a lot of people think that's too hard.
It's definitely not something I checked, is those reviews.
I actually think that when they raised the level cap, it threw a lot of the difficulty scaling off, and things did get harder, like across the board. Not in a particularly intentional way, but just the way the math started working out.
There was one observation I posted on the forum a while back, is that in the Foundry, certain NPCs seem to scale up in difficulty past 50 more so than others do, namely the Tholians.
And I don't think it's smooth scaling of difficulty. I think depending on where you are in the level range, it can be harder or easier.
Yeah.
So in any case, after you fight this big battle on the surface, you go into the temple, which, as we know from the Kowali missions that you undertake in the battle zone, is actually a Vadwar sleeper facility. And you learn what's going on, why the Vadwar are there, is actually because of a signal from Harry Kim. But not the Harry Kim you might think. So this was a nice callback to, what was it, Season 1 or Season 2 of Voyager, where there were 2 versions of the ship caused by a spatial scission.
Oh yeah, by the way, the episode name was Deadlock.
Deadlock, thank you very much. And so you had 2 versions of the ship. On one of them, Harry Kim got sucked out of an airlock, which you get in a nice cutscene.
Which I thought was really cool.
It's nice to see Belana Torres in Stowe, even if we don't get the voiceover from the actress. And
I got the impression from that scene is that it was actually Lindsay Ballard, not Belana.
Well, I thought I remember from the episode that it was Belana in that scene.
Yeah, and it's very clearly half Klingon in the Jeffers tube.
I think they may have sourced the audio from the episode even.
I kind of want to go back and see how Torres sounded in that scene back in the show.
Yeah.
In any case, flash forward, and it wasn't an airlock; it was a hull breach. Thank you, Pax. That is correct.
Well, it was an airlock that got the hatch blown off of it.
Well, they were in a Jeffers tube.
Which was a great scene and a shocking scene, as I remember, because remembering back from when that episode first aired, like, wait, what? He's dead? He's a major character. They don't kill off major characters in Star Trek at the time.
Unless they got a quantum duplicate.
Yeah.
I wasn't there at the same time that they just killed like Wildman's baby too.
Yeah, they had killed Wildman's baby. So you end up getting the Harry Kim from the other Voyager, and he picks up the baby and runs over. So for the rest of the show, and indeed for the rest of all time, Harry and Naomi Wildman are from an alternate Voyager, which really is just the main Voyager, just another one. So it's very complicated. It was one of those sort of weird techno-babbly episodes of Voyager. But in any case, we got a nice follow-up here.
Wait, did they actually officially confirm which Voyager is the one that survived? Because watching the episode, I kind of got the impression that it was the duplicate that survived, not the original.
Well, it's not a case of...
In a sense, they're both the original.
Yeah, there's not a case of one was specifically a copy. It was like they were split. And
essentially, you know, the one that you start with at the very beginning, the one that's getting heavily damaged, that is the one that ends up surviving.
It's also the one that has Harry and Naomi die, and although the rest of the crew from the other ship could theoretically have crossed over, they didn't, and only Harry and Naomi did.
Yep. So now, 30 some odd years later, you pick up with this Harry who fell out the hull breach, gets picked up by the Kobali, specifically Lindsay Ballard, aka Jetlaya, who is in this episode and is fantastic. Voice actress who I had never made the connection was Sheriff Mills, one of my absolute favorite characters on Supernatural, which got me really excited to see this episode. So she picks up his body, Kobaliizes him, and he doesn't take it very well and has started activating all kinds of things, takes over the facility, and that's what calls the Vodwar in, unintentionally, of course.
But basically, he thinks he's been abducted by the Vidians, and the Vidians are performing horrific medical experiments on him. And he tries to call Voyager for help using a Vadwar computer console, which sends out a distress signal to the Vadwar.
Yep. Which Voyager, you learn, is on some kind of secret mission in Vodwar-controlled space. That's something that's not resolved, so that could be something we hear about in the future.
There's actually an extra bit of info to that, and Duplicate Kim specifically mentions that they're in Krenim space.
Oh, does he now?
Yeah.
Intriguing.
In fact, yeah, he's ranting on after he takes the ship about, I can see where they are. They're in something called Krenim space.
I think that's fantastic because obviously
I don't remember
Krenim
that
won the
bit
poll.
of dial.
You know, now that I'm remembering, I think I do remember.
Which map did he say that on? Which
big
map
underground
was it?
In the temple.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Because now that I'm recalling it, yeah.
You mean the mention to the Krenim?
Yeah, the Krenim.
Oh, no, that's after he takes the ship.
Oh, is it?
Which part? The first part?
I want to say it was in the warp sequence, but I can't remember exactly.
I'll have to pay close attention next time.
So I think where we're at here is the underground map, which you have to overcome all kinds of obstacles to get through to find this Harry Kim, and you're with old Captain Kim and Jetlaya, and they're helping you out through this thing. I really enjoyed this part because it had a maze, it had something where you had to figure out how to get across this chasm by extending a bridge, which were only up temporarily. I described it to somebody as like old school Nintendo stuff kind of gameplay.
Yeah, I compared it to Wario Land on one of the things when I was discussing it, because it's one of those things where I forget exactly which one. I think it was Wario Land 3, where in the game your character does not ever die. Your character cannot die. It's just a matter of overcoming intense frustration to get from the start to the end.
You can die. You can die repeatedly.
Yeah, but you always respawn. But it's definitely that sort of obstacle course kind of a thing. And I really like the maze. A word of advice to everyone out there: if you play this, you'll see a little information icon on your mini map. Always go talk to that person because she'll give you a bridge officer.
Yeah, you find a lost
become a
Kabali
bridge
and
officer. Yeah.
who is forward enough to ask to join your crew.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I missed her the first 2 times actually.
I actually immediately noticed the yellow icon, but I didn't realize what it was until I did a mouse over, because I was originally thinking that it was the goal that I was supposed to be getting to, and I didn't want to go there until I found the bridge officer. But
turns out it was the bridge officer.
if you do a mouse over on the yellow icon, it'll pop up a name, which is like Kobali Hanchan or something like that.
And she is actually voiced by Adrian Grady, who I believe was Priority One podcaster, something like that.
Yeah, for a while. I think she also does community management for them, or something like that.
I don't know the whole story there. I just know I've heard the name many times before. So after you find Mr. Kim, he beams up and takes over the Kobali Samsar flagship, the brand new ship, and you have to try and fight him. And he escapes into warp, and you have to bring him out of warp using something that Captain Kim comes up with, which I thought was a very cool effect, and I hope that would be something really cool to get for the Foundry. That thing that makes the map. I don't even know how to describe it.
Yeah, that's the same effect from the beginning of the Battle of Corfez, where you do your whole prep work in warp before dropping out of warp. Yeah, it's a really cool effect, but I think it's one of those backdrop changers, which we really don't have any sort of system in place to deal with those.
Well, who knows? It's a dream, maybe, that someday we'll get things like that. Backdrop changes in the Foundry.
It's a cool effect.
Sir Boulevard says, we won't get it. I asked Taco, it is a backdrop change.
Yeah.
So
because we have that warp tunnel backdrop available to us.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, we don't have a way to change it out for.
We don't have a way to change
system.
So then you get a final space battle because he comes out of warp at the around one of the Hirogen sensor arrays, which they don't ever take kindly to. But you finally convince him to trust you and talk to him and finally get him to understand what's going on. And that is the end of the episode. So it's kind of more personal story episode than some of the rest, which I think is good. I think you should have lots of those to intersperse with the bigger, big political events and space battles kinds of episodes. Although this one did have plenty of combat.
It did, but at the same time, a lot of its focus was on less non-combat means. Obviously, a lot of navigation and overcoming obstacles, but at the same time...
the longest sequence in it is that obstacle course.
But I mean, yeah, it's cool to see them playing around with different kinds of gameplay.
Yeah, Garrett Wong was really good.
The obstacle course is definitely the most challenging thing that they've done in the way of non-combat gameplay I've seen in the game, just because of the, well, like I said, the whole intense frustration aspect of it, where one thing that happened to me a few times is that I'm just like pushing one to zap all of the things as quickly as I can while I hop across, and then for some unknown reason, the auto-targeting chooses a node that's behind me and causes my character to turn around in mid-run across the thing, and at which point, of course, I usually end up dying because by the time I get turned back around, the one that I'm standing on is ready to leave.
I use tactical mode. It's way simpler. Works.
It took me a while to figure out why even though as I was running across there, the little electrical thing would come out and zap the floor, and the ramp would pull back.
Oh yeah,
I was
it
getting
took me a
a
while
little
to.
frustrated. I was like, wait a second, slow down, think about this.
Because yeah, I was just barreling across trying to get across before, and it took me a few tries before I
Yeah,
realized
you can't do that.
that there were plates that were deactivating.
The nice thing is it has good respawns. So in the final room where you have like 3 sets, a really long set of these ramps. If you die midway through, there's actually at least one spawn point midway through.
Yeah, it was like a catwalk
So you
of
spawn
them.
up,
Actually,
you spawn up on a catwalk.
if you die and you're almost at the end, you'll actually respawn at the end and not at the either the second or the third point. Because I actually had that happen to me. Is that I was literally on the last platform and almost got there when the platform dropped out from under me. And when I hit respawn, I actually popped up all the way on the far side.
Yeah, I know some places where to do that. And I'm guessing that was kind of there just to kind of keep the frustration level down, because I know not everybody likes jumping puzzles or coordinated.
That would definitely have caused a major rage fit on the forum if you had to go all the way across without respawning. That that would have been too difficult for most people to do.
So overall, what do you guys think of this episode?
I think it was a very
good
episode. It has a very nice, strong showing from Garrett Wong, who probably, I mean, he didn't have
episode arguing with himself.
Yeah, he didn't get a ton of really good Harry Kim episodes in the original Voyager, so in a way, it's kind of really nice to see him get one now.
And he obviously loves doing it, the voiceover work.
Yeah.
Because he's all over Twitter talking about it and saying how much fun he had. So he's someone that you can probably get back over and over again.
Yeah.
If you want him.
Well, I mean, it was also really cool them getting Kim Rhodes for this.
Absolutely.
Which, I mean, reading through the article, I guess was a bit of a surprise because, I mean, she's not someone who doesn't already have a ton of stuff on her plate.
Yeah.
Well, one interesting thing I noticed is that there's that podcast that Gecko did where he was interviewing Kim Rhodes. That was entertaining.
Yeah, she seems like a really cool person.
Yeah, she made this comment like, "Wait, you want me to play Jet Laya again? Yay!" Well, something to that effect, not those words.
And she says she's never been invited to a Star Trek convention. That's just a travesty.
That is odd. It's like all of the people who run the conventions forgot that her character existed after the episode was over.
Which sometimes happens. I mean, the writers apparently forgot that Naomi Wildman's mom still existed in the later series.
Mm-hmm.
In any case, this mission, it doesn't leave us in any kind of a cliffhanger, but we still have sort of the overarching Iconian plot going on, and we still don't know what Voyager was out there in Krenim space doing. So we have those things up in the air.
There is actually some interesting stuff you can learn by going to the 5 Badwar consoles inside the catacombs and reading the data on them carefully. Because, well, a lot of them are very simplistic things like this facility has the purpose of preserving our people in the case that we lose the upcoming fight, blah, blah, blah. Then there's one where the guy's talking about how they're rationing space for educators in favor of having people with more practical skills placed into stasis. But, what was it? Dang it! I kind of forgot what the other one was. One of them was something else, and I don't quite remember exactly what it was.
Well, there's definitely good stuff there, and of course, it's all optional stuff. If it's only there if you want to read it, which, as we know from many Foundry missions, is something that I think a lot of people like. It you can skip it if you don't want to read it, and it's there if you do. All right, let's move it along. Our guest, Rogueenterprise, has a mission review for us.
Hey, yes. So I know the Foundry's down now. I was going to replay it so it'd be fresh in my brain, but that failed. But I played Starfarertheta's mission, Omnitabula Part 1. And I don't want to do like a really hardcore mission review about this mission, but I do recommend that you guys play it, only because of two different reasons. The map building is like pretty jaw-dropping in a lot of places, and Dragoon, I don't know if you can throw up any of those images, but I had tweeted about one of them when I played it, and it was like this really amazing like Starfleet like observation lounge, and it was actually really good. And he has a lot of maps that are these like pretty like detail focused. Really, you can tell he spent a lot of time on them. And if you guys go to the official forums and go to the mission forum, you can find, I think he has a thread for his. It's the first of a 3-part series. You can look at it there, and he's done like very extensive like mission overviews and screenshot stuff and history on all his characters, and it's. It comes off. You can really tell that the effort like he put into that it comes through in the mission. So go to the forum, check out his thread. You could I'd say maybe the one downside I can think of when I played it is the plot is like a little bit convoluted. But I mean it's such a small drawback for an otherwise very like well thought out, well plotted, well built mission.
I will include a link to the forum thread in the show notes.
Yeah, please do that. Again, he spends a lot of time going through and detailing out everything. So I know we were talking about in the pre-show a little bit, maybe this, might help you get a little bit more attention on your missions. And I don't know if that's exactly true or anything, but it's really cool to see that kind of, thought and like, right in your face, like outlining of a mission series like this. So I do, go ahead if you're going to.
No, I was going to say that was, you were kind of alluding to, that was sort of part of the reason why you decided to play this mission in the first place, was because of the things that he had been uploading and detailing out on that thread. Yeah,
actually, well, I wish I was that like, like generous going through the forum and like playing stuff based on that. But I mean, the reason why I played it is because he posted in one of my mission review exchange threads. But then afterwards, after I played it and he had got my curiosity up, I was like, oh yeah, doesn't this guy have a forum thread? And I looked, and I was very surprised and floored by what he's posted in there. So I do recommend you guys go check it out and play the mission when it comes back up. He says in his forum thread it's 45 to 90 minutes, but I think it's worth it for the amount of effort he's put into it.
So let's keep talking about that for a little bit, though. We always say, you have to advertise your mission, but how you do that is just as important. You can't just throw it up there and tweet once about it, and that's it, and expect to get a whole bunch of plays.
Definitely.
What Omnitabula has done is go into great detail, post all kinds of screenshots, and choosing your screenshots well is a good piece of advice. Choose the ones that are most exciting, really show off your maps. And the thing about the mission forum on the official forums is that you can display actual images in it, like the art forum. So don't skimp on your images.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
there was one person who once said that no publicity is bad publicity. It's not true.
No, you need to craft your publicity.
Yeah. So, I mean, in this case, what this guy did is he has his forum thread for his mission, but he's also posting in like, review me threads and that kind of thing. So, and I can't stress that enough. Like, there are people out there that will play your mission if you exert some effort to like post in the forums, like me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like the rest of us here, we'll definitely review your mission. Drop us a line on Twitter, post on the our forum threads, and we will definitely review your missions.
And we have an email address that like no one ever seems to use.
Or more like no one ever checks.
Oh, so we could have a ton of review requests in there, and we'd never know.
Yes. Yes, they could be. So I don't know, what are some other ways you guys think that people can advertise their missions?
Oh.
Well, I mean, the obvious one is posting the forums, like we just said. But if you actually, this kind of dovetails into my discussion topic. Can I do that now?
Go for it.
So I've noticed. I was just joking with some of the guys like a few days ago that like 90% of the time I don't get dilithium rewards for when I play Foundry missions because I like to help people get reviews for their brand new missions. So and I've seen people ask for plays on the official forums and the Starbase UGC forums if you guys head over there ever. So what I want to do, I mean, it really bums me out when I see people ask for mission reviews and, either, I know it takes a lot of time and effort to, play people's Foundry missions. So what I want to do is put together I called it a hit squad, but, just a group of people that, we can become organized and play some of these new missions because a lot of them are good. A lot of them you can tell they put a lot of effort into them. Others, they're brand new authors. They do like newbie mistakes, but they need someone to be able to tell them that. So if you guys, anyone, either on the podcast or that listen to this podcast, totally hit me up on Twitter or in-game message if you want at Rogueenterprise. And I kind of scour the boards when I can and put together a list of these new missions. So. I want to be able to reward these people for, taking the time to post on these forums and stuff, and get at least a couple plays on their missions.
I think that's a great idea.
Please do.
So essentially, what you need is a pool of players, so that anytime a new mission comes up, guy requests some reviews, you have enough people you can call on to get them out of review stage.
Exactly. Yeah, that'd be ideal.
Well, one thing I've noticed that some people have done is to put a banner in their signature. Not sure how useful that is, but I've seen it done many times.
It's advertising.
Sorry, you cut out there. I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, he suggested putting a banner image in your signature, forum signature.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And if you don't know how to make one of those, or don't think you can make a good one, there's people who definitely can do that for you. I am certainly one of them. I have enough, at least, Photoshop skills. Casmodian, I know, has made a few of those. He's made some great teasers for Hippie John's upcoming Spotlight mission, formerly contest mission.
I don't know. I'm into designing things. Maybe I'll come up with a Foundry mission template, Photoshop template or something.
Yes, considering that Dragoon is an actual graphic designer, he would be a good person to do this.
Share the wealth, Dragoon.
Mm-hmm. All the graphics you see on this podcast were made by Greendragoon. I don't know if we've ever actually said that before.
I like to tinker with things.
I have mentioned that I have good cut and paste skills, but actually freehand drawing things, not so much.
Never been my strong suit either. Playing with Photoshop filters, that's what I can do.
I don't even know how to do those. I'm one of those people that I just do this thing like cutting out pieces of an image and then rearranging them like a collage. I
works.
did that for that challenge that Trendy did for making duty officers.
That I don't know if we ever actually talked about that, but that was actually quite a lot of fun, I thought. And a lot of people entered Foundry characters, characters from their mission. I entered the Brunhilde computer from the what is the name of the mission? Sink the Bismarck, the crazy AI computer that tries to kill you.
I did one or two of one Foundry character that I did. I also did one that, well, okay, it may have been just slightly mean, but I did one for Vaporak. Oh, well.
So Photoshop skills are definitely something that can help you out, but there are people who can help you out if you don't feel like you have those skills.
But I mean, even if you only have access to a copy of Paint, I mean, just take a screenshot from the game, crop it to the size of the forum threads require, which I'm afraid I don't have the resolution off the top of my head, but and then stick some text in one corner, the title and of your mission.
And ironically enough, Paint is my image editor of choice. Why? Because I've been using it for 20 years.
It's a little bit better since the Windows 95 days, but
they have been adding new features slowly, but we have gotten new features.
It's passable in a pinch.
The grid lines features is one of my favorite new features they added to it. Yeah, well.
All right. So I had a little bit of a topic for us today. In one of our previous episodes, we talked about a trope called the Spotlight Stealing Squad, which is, characters that come in that are so good that they take the spotlight away from the main character, who is always supposed to be the player. But there's another side to this, and just you might call it the more positive side, which is called the hero of another story, where you meet someone, and obviously they're a hero. Obviously, they have some other story, but that's not necessarily important to the episode that you're experiencing and the mission that you're experiencing. They're there to help you out. They're there to be a supporting character, but obviously they have this other life. And I think that's kind of important to impart in your characters when you make up characters for Foundry missions. Make them be obviously the heroes of some other story, even if it doesn't come into your Foundry mission. And the way you can do that is, well, there's many ways you can do that, obviously, but you can have them talk about their exploits. That's kind of the obvious way. You can have other people talk about their exploits. When you're being introduced to a character, you can have little throwaway things like your captain says, "Oh yeah, I heard about them, at the battle of such and such," and things like that.
That's actually one thing that I like about the way Masashi Kishimoto did character backstories in Naruto, is that he wrote out these things that detailed what all of the various characters do when they're not off being ninja, because all of them were basically ninja. Well, most of them were basically part-time ninja, and had some other actual occupation they did when they weren't doing ninja stuff.
Horient in the chat room has a great example of the hero of another story is Captain Sean.
Which is
so he only ever comes into our narrative very rarely. So he's obviously always off doing something else.
That is true.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of a tricky thing to do, because you want to do it in a way that feels somewhat natural versus setting them up on an obvious pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to be something where you're introducing their backstory in a very natural way that it would come up in normal conversation.
Well, and they also don't always have to be, quote, a hero. They just, this overarching concept is that these people have lives outside of you.
Yeah.
Right. I think a lot of that is just being able to flesh out characters, which is like a good writing skill in general, even when they have a minor part in your story. But actually, I never do this. So
You never do this.
I almost never do this. I have one recurring character that I sneak into my missions, but otherwise, like, they're literally just part of my story, and that's it. And I never think about.
This is the character that is totally not your fiance, right?
Yeah, totally not at all. Definitely not.
Yeah.
No, it is my fiance's character, but yeah, no, I mean, almost never. I mean, I don't know if this just makes my missions less effective. Maybe it does, but
not always. So let me ask you a question. You do introduce new characters in your missions, right?
Yes.
You don't.
Sure.
The characters you have characters other than
they have names. Yeah.
Officers.
Right. Yes. Yes. I do. Yeah.
Do you ever talk about even in just little throwaway dialogues, anything that establishes who these characters are, where they come from, what they might have done outside of this mission?
Yes, but only if it directly affects the mission. Mm-hmm. So I'm not one of those guys where it's like, hey, you meet a new NPC, and then you can, like, I think Cryptic does this a lot, where they're like, hey, Captain Sean, like, hey, what have you been doing outside the Enterprise? Hey, like, aren't you from Andoria? Hey, like, what do you do when you're in your ready room? It's like, that, like, none of that seems story relevant to me, so I never do it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a great place for optional dialogue, right?
Yeah, I don't really like that kind of optional dialogue personally. Like, doesn't serve the story.
One of the tricks that Masashi Kishimoto does is something that we can't really do in the Foundry, because whenever you see the character in their own house or whatever, outside of actually being on a mission, that you tend to see them with things that reflect their character, and that's not exactly the sort of thing we can do in the Foundry. But the basic premise is you show the character with the things that they like or would normally be associated with when they're not doing that. Like in the Deep Space Nine featured episode where you have that conference and you're talking to the Cardassians and the Klingons and what have you. You have this scene where Sean talks about how if the Empire doesn't help, then the Klingons are basically going to have to sit back and hope that the Federation develops adequate weaponry for defeating the Borg on their own, because he thinks the Klingons are pretty much incapable of winning.
And it can be just as similar, just as subtle as that, just something that helps tell who this character is and establishes them outside the mission. Obviously, when you're reading that, obviously Sean has spent some time thinking about this. He hasn't just been sitting there waiting for you to show up. He's been doing other things. And, so it's not like you have to tell everybody their whole life story right when you meet them. And you can even reveal these things as you go on. But the characterization is a very... It's not always the easiest thing. How much to talk about a character, how much to reveal about them, and how much focus you want to put on them. Because, of course, as we always say, the main character should be the player captain.
Yeah,
so you guys have talked about this. You guys have talked about this, like, Mary Sue kind of a thing in previous episode.
Yeah, it's definitely a danger.
we definitely have come up, and it's definitely a danger.
Yeah. Don't do it.
It actually kind of goes along with that whole spotlight stealing squad thing. Is because part of the reason why you have the people steal the spotlight is because of the fact that they're so awesome.
Yeah. Very serious.
Here's a good piece of advice: make your characters not awesome.
I mean, how cool would it be though to kind of explore, for instance, with Sean, explore some of his weaknesses or his fears?
Well, he definitely seems to be rather brash and arrogant. That's for sure.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's quite an Andorian trait.
Isn't it alluded to?
He basically told the Klingon ambassador who happened to be a Gorn, who's like 8 feet tall, that he thought that the Klingons sucked at fighting, and that if they had to beat the Borg, that the Borg would win.
Yeah, but I mean, how does he keep up with the or keep himself together after what happened at Vega and stuff like that? I mean,
Good question.
Where is his fault lines, so to speak?
There, we started talking about this episode a little bit in one of them, and Capture the Flag, one of the Delta Rising episodes where you help the crew of the Lisette fight off of Oddmore boarding party. And I think we need an episode like that for Sean and his crew, because the reason I love it so much is that you see the crew of the Lisette, you meet each of them, you see them in action, you see them under stress, and you really, I feel like you get to know them better than anything they've ever done for Sean and the crew of the Enterprise or the crew of the Klingon flagship. And I think we ought to have episodes like that for the Enterprise and for the Klingon flagship.
No, I gotta believe that Kestrel had way too much fun writing that episode. Just because she got to dig so deep into those characters.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one thing I thought of about Vakel Shawn is that he seems to be heavily reminiscent of Thylax Shran. And, you know, Thylax Shran basically tried to defeat the entire Vulcan armada by himself.
Yeah, he does kind of have that cockiness, although he doesn't have the outright anger that Shran had. Because I mean, Shran got
antagonistic. Mad. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in part, Shran was pissed off because of the fact that his fiance died and stuff, and that never helps.
Well, I mean, even before that, I mean, he was very antagonistic of. Even when he would kind of loosely consider Archer a friend, he still kind of kept this more antagonistic tone with him.
The most interesting and revealing moment about Shran's character is the scene after Archer beats him in that duel. After that, he's like, "Okay, you win, Doug." And
Shran
like
is actually a very good example of a hero of another story. Because every time he has lots of backstory to him. He obviously has a very long military career. He's an influential leader, and you know, as if he wasn't going to be already an awesome character enough, is Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah, I mean, not to mention he's got all this backstory with the Vulcans, and it's kind of integral into their whole relationship between the Vulcans and Andorians and Tellarites. And
almost every time you meet him, he's already in the thick of something.
Yeah, I mean, in Enterprise, it's almost like they're kind of the ones late to the party and just now trying to play all this catch up. Like, this is all stuff that's been going on, like, well before Earth got out there.
Well, I'll tell you what, I know what they should do, and actually, I think this may be stealing an idea from you and from another Foundry who's I can't remember which one was talking about this. You, Greendragoon, by you I mean, is if they're going to do something to really let us get to know the Enterprise F and its crew, including Sean, is we ought to go back to Vega.
That's what I'm saying. I want to revamp what is it, the Defera ground zone, and turn it into a war zone to take back Vega.
Mm-hmm. But have it deal with Sean on a very personal level, because we know he's from there. We know he lost loved ones when the Borg attacked. So, you know, let's explore that and have the player be, you know, fight alongside him and alongside his crew and really get to know them under fire, like we did with the crew of the Lisette. I think that'd be a great episode.
Yeah, that's a good example of like a background piece of information about
to
that.
Be currently.
That's relevant. Go ahead.
My best guess is the current status of Vega is that the Federation has already removed most of the Borg stuff from the planet. Because the old STFs, where you were actually on the surface of Vega, you didn't fight Borg on the surface of Vega. You walked around, and it was, a Federation colony. In the tutorial, the way the tutorial was originally set up, you had the Borg crap everywhere, but the Borg were fighting a losing battle at that point, and the Federation apparently, more or less wiped them out of the system and forced them to leave. Until you get to the STFs, where they find out that they hadn't done quite as good of a job as they thought. You have to go to the underground complex, which, is the one where you have to deal with all those annoying force field things and stuff. Yeah,
Well,
that way.
I mean, I never got to play the original version, but didn't that all supposed to take place in the past while you were during what the original tutorial was? And
Yes and no.
aren't you responsible for the reason why at least in the original tutorial the Borg were all like weaklings that a level 1 character can beat up?
I believe you are correct. Yes.
Yeah, there's a whole elaborate story around that with
Yeah.
Because there was a time travel thing, and yeah.
Yeah, but what I was getting at though is that if I remember right, the first part of it was the Kitamura Cord Vortex, as it's called now, where you're in space. The Borg are trying to shove probes through a time portal. Blah blah blah. You're there to stop them. When you think you've stopped them, you find out that really you didn't stop them, and you have to go back in time and deal with them in the past, much like Star Trek First Contact, and, stuff. But I never actually played it. I kind of read descriptions of what it was, but the way I remember it, it kind of depicted the whole... It didn't leave you with an active war on the surface of Vega. It left the Federation more or less picking up the pieces after they kicked the Borg out.
Yeah. But yeah, so when they revamped the Federation tutorial, though, that changed, and suddenly you go from the mopping up what's left of the Borg to the Borg losing the planet to the Borg.
And you don't have that SDF anymore where you go back in time and mess with it.
Well, we've got the ground portion, which is supposed to take place in the past, but yeah, it's that whole mission or SDF is now a little weird, kind of left in the lurch.
It's a little out of the timeline or something like that.
I'm not saying it couldn't be revamped and adapted, but...
So, speaking of removed content, just to move things along, Mark, I think you've been cataloging things from the old Romulan missions, is that right?
Yes. I actually didn't get through all of the missions. There was a few that I missed, but, let's see here. Let's hurry up. I got... I think 7 of them done.
Now, was this with maybe like an eye towards recreating them in the Foundry?
Yeah, that was the basic premise. Is I was attempting to collect all of the data that you would need in order to make a not necessarily a perfect replica, but a reasonably close replica that would capture the essence of the original story.
Sure.
We
certainly have the maps.
I got 11 of them done. Actually, I realized when we were going through that there were certain aspects of them that were not in the Foundry, certain things that we cannot do in the Foundry, and maybe never will. Like,
So it would take some creative license.
yeah. One of them, you have this giant planetary defense grid that is not turrets. It is a giant force field. You know, kind of like the force field around the Death Star, that sort of force field. There's like this hole in the force field you have to fly through in order to get to the planet. Okay, granted, it's not a single shield bubble like the Death Star had. It's a bunch of satellites that each of them individually creates a shield plate, I guess you could call it, and all of the plates combine to make something you can't go through.
Yeah, well, that actually
Anyway,
survived the revamp and is now part of one of the missions.
This is good, but what I was
yeah,
getting at is that we don't actually have the ability to use that in the Foundry, as far as I know.
True.
So you would have to ride around it a little bit, or try and find a way to make it without making it exactly the way they did.
Yeah. Let's see. Another one is that one of the missions actually has a single map used twice. One version of the map does not have Borg junk. The other one does. We have the version without Borg junk. Granted, this is a relatively minor obstacle as we can add Borg junk. It's just that we wouldn't be able to add the same kind of Borg junk as it had in the original.
Well, I would definitely go for upholding the spirit of the mission versus the letter.
Well, see, the thing is, though, is that the version of Borg junk seen in that episode is actually rather unique in that it looks like the Romulans were experimenting in having Borg nanotechnology basically just do a controlled version of the gray goo scenario and just build stuff out of mass, and it's not anywhere near as controlled as what you normally see from the Borg. I mean, you know, there were things like pipes sticking out at random, weird wall shapes that, well, it was basically just the gray goo changing the structure of the wall. It wasn't it actually doing something. They weren't making Borg technology, they were just making. But anyway, so if you were going to reproduce that in the Foundry, you could take some of the Borg assets, stick them in there so that you have Borg-looking walls, and you could kind of sort of ignore the difference because it really wasn't important to the mission. It was just a stylistic choice that was unique.
I would say in some cases there might be the opportunity to even improve on what the old missions were.
Well, to be honest, that particular asset I was talking about, the reason why I concluded that it was the whole gray goo thing is because it had no function whatsoever. It was just there. In this room that they specifically state is someplace where the Romulans have been experimenting with Borg stuff, and they don't really say what the experiments were, and you see that the walls are covered with what looks like debris created by Borg nanites, and the stuff on the walls doesn't do anything at all. It's just there. Yeah, well, let's see here. One of the missions actually has a function in the mission we cannot duplicate in the Foundry. Because one of the missions, the one where you go to the planet and save the Romulans from a bioweapon created by the Tal Shiar, in that particular mission, there's a thing where you go around and you find people, but it's apparently an interact with objective that uses NPCs instead of objects, because you can push V and scan for the NPC you're looking for. Normally you can't scan for NPCs.
Well, we could just use invisible objects.
You can kind of fake that with invisible objects, right? Sort of.
This is true.
Mm-hmm.
But for that particular mission, you actually, you could push V to find the nearest infected person that you needed to interact with.
Which would have the same effect as an invisible object.
Yes. It's fakeable, but it's not exactly the same.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know, I think
Also,
Yeah, you're going to run into a lot of that, I imagine.
When you interact with the people, the second time you interact with the people, their animation changes. They go from this animation where they're like lying down and kind of like slowly moving like they're in intense pain or something, and they actually like when you interact with them, they actually do this animation where they get up and stand up. It's actually a relatively smooth transition.
I could fake
Which is
that.
kind of cool.
Neutral Charge Captain 01 has no beam animation, so you can use it as a swap.
Right, but you wouldn't be able to do the whole animation where they stand up.
You can stand up, but you can
No,
swap
not
out, and that would
exactly.
achieve the same, or
well,
effectively the same thing.
well, you'd have the person laying down disappear, and then have another person appear that's standing up. Anyways, what other things? Oh, another thing that I realized going through here is that it's something I brought up before as part of the discussion on the exploration clusters, is that we can't do the horizons. It's to my knowledge, all of the external maps we have in the Foundry lack horizons. And these maps had horizons in the version from the story, which in many cases will actually change the way the map looks a lot, especially in the one where you're I think it's preemptive strike, where you go to the planet, and one of the things you have to do is you infiltrate a Tau Shiar facility that is on an isthmus in the middle of a bay, and whenever you're standing there, you can like look like in several different directions, and you can see that you're on a very large body of water. In the Foundry, you would not have distant objects. You would not be able to have. Well, basically, in the Foundry, you just have this like square, and it's like the edge of the world, and you fall off.
I think as an overall mission statement for if you were going to redo these, is close enough would have to be what you're aiming for.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of...
You can halfway fake a horizon by using a carefully chosen backdrop, but oh wait, I just thought of something about Saturday's Child.
Well,
in
we can't make
Saturday's
people follow. That's the only thing I think of. Oh,
Actually,
we can't shoot Comet.
You can fake the Comet thing, because in Saturday's Child, all you really do is it doesn't break apart like the one from the Davidian story. You just shoot it, it explodes, and then you're done with it. So in that case, you could reconfigure the objectives to kick Gerard's butt, then interact with the comet, at which point the comet explodes.
Yeah, I
that's
think that's
probably
what
your
I
best
do.
bet. I think the part
Because
where
we
you
do have
people,
comets in the Foundry,
Yes, we do.
and you can set them as part of an interact objective.
And then put explosions to spawn around them when you interact with it.
And of course, make them disappear when you interact.
Well, yeah, obviously.
in a couple of places, missions, though, we have issues where we have a character following the player, which is something we can't do.
Mhm.
Actually, in Saturday's Child, she doesn't follow you.
No,
In
but
Saturday's Child, it's actually a one of those things that Cryptic can do that we can't, where it's a patrol where the character goes from point A to point B and then stops.
But in Divided Impera, Zell does.
True. We can't do that. In Saturday's Child, the Elasan princess, I forget what her name was, but she actually does this rather long patrol route where she just walks from the initial spawn point all the way to the village and stuff. I did actually note while I was doing that one that if you wait long enough or at least it used to be before they revamped them, but if you waited long enough, all of the enemies on the map would respawn. Because I did this thing where I screenshotted everything in the mission as I was playing through that map, and then I went back and looked at a few things to make a few more screenshots, and noticed that the Mugatu that you beat up at the start of the mission had respawned and was just kind of like standing there doing that tantrum animation for no obvious reason. And then, of course, I killed it again just for the fun of it, because I was playing as a Kazinti, and they liked doing that. Actually, if I remember right, if you get too close, it will automatically attack you just because you're there. Mugatu seem to have a very low aggro threshold.
Well, you'll have to keep us updated if you do end up doing these missions.
Okay, hold on. I'll give you a list of the data that I have because, I am perfectly willing to share the data I collected if someone else wants to take a stab at doing one of them. Let's see here. I have Under the Cover of Night, Minefield, Divided Impera, Saturday's Child, Preemptive Strike, Hunting the Hunters. Oh, that one. Hunting the Hunters is something we would have to tinker with a bit because the Hirogen use dome-shaped force fields that are impermeable both ways because you can't fire out and the Hirogen can't fire in. We don't have dome-shaped force fields. We do have the Borg one, but the Borg one is a one-sided force field that you can fire out of, but you can't fire into.
We would probably have to do like a collection of those like broken force fields or something like that. It wouldn't be a dome, but it would be
Broken force fields are just as bad because you would have to put two of them, one of them facing the other way, because broken force fields also you can fire through one side but not the other.
Well, no, just as long as you don't.
Then, don't put enemies on the outside of them. Then
Yeah.
when
that
the
would
Hirogen are out there taunting you or whatever they're doing, you use NPCs for that instead of NPC groups.
Yeah, and then you just
and then after you escape the force fields, you replace the NPC groups with actual Hirogen.
Yeah,
exactly.
Also, Project Nightingale. I think I talked about that one already. By Any Means, Ground Zero. I'm not sure we actually have the ability to fully duplicate Ground Zero because there's that object where you have the dome created by the Remans on that broken piece of a planet, and I'm not sure that object is actually part of the Foundry version of the map.
I don't know. It's been a while since I looked at the. Is Hobus in the Foundry, the space map?
I believe so. Yes.
I know the ground one is.
Yeah,
I've used the ground one. I think there's a version of the space one, but I haven't looked at it recently, so I'm not sure exactly what it looks like. Ghost Ship. I'm trying to remember. There's something about Ghost Ship that was off. Oh, it's one of those where it has mechanics where you shoot at something and then it, kind of sort of does something other than exploding.
yeah, because we got those portals that you have to shoot, which we don't have the portal assets either.
Well, see, you actually have an enemy in there that it looks like a Romulan ship, but apparently it has no actual physical substance, which is weird. And friend of my enemy. So that's... I numbered them 2 through 12 because what I considered as number 1 was something I didn't bother to document because it's the one where you pick up the guy and drag him to Starbase 39 and then leave him there.
Technically, that one's still in there. That one didn't get removed.
Oh, well, I didn't need to document it anyways then.
Even better. So moving along, I got one last topic for us tonight. Taco Fangs stopped by the forums the other day and let us know that he was working on getting new ESD into the Foundry. But it's a very complicated map, and he was asking some things. I was curious where you guys come down on this issue of whether he should, walk off things like the hologram consoles, or remove them entirely. Let us put them down because we do have that asset that's still in the game. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Empty ESD or full ESD?
Well, as one person on the forum pointed out, it would seem that the best option is actually a middle of the road option, because full empty ESD would mean taking out all of the chairs, all 200 or 300 of them. Actually, I didn't count, but you get the idea.
Yeah, there are a lot of them.
That would obviously be something that would be extremely difficult to recreate using a Foundry map, and it would probably eat up your entire object limit.
Yeah,
so obviously
probably.
that's not a good option. So, keeping the chairs, whether they're sittable or not, that seems like a good idea. You don't need sittable chairs anyways. The holographic consoles, to be honest, if they're locked in the closed position, you can put another console on top of them, and then that one will, open whenever someone gets close to it. Granted, of course, you would have to position it extremely precisely, and that would be frustrating. But if you really felt the need to use it.
Yeah, I mean, I've certainly done the trick where you line up consoles with a baked console to kind of make it interactable. It's a little bit time-consuming, but not impossible.
If you zoom all the way in on the mini-map, you can actually position the item precisely enough just by dragging it around that you'll get almost right on the first try, but you have to zoom all the way in for that.
Yeah. And it usually requires a
actually
few rounds of trial and error to get the right height and make sure just a little bit.
Believe it or not, that asteroid station that I built that the Kazon had in orbit of Ocampa, I actually threw that together in one try. Granted, I got the height wrong because in the mission I actually have the spawn point set at +10, and I put the asteroid station at 0 and had to move it to +10. But I actually got the angle of all the pieces right the first time, in part because I'd used the pieces before, but also in part because I zoomed in really, really close and aligned things with the mouse carefully.
Orient is suggesting that somebody could get the precise coordinates of the consoles and then share it with everybody else, so it'd be easy. You just type in the values and there you go.
Well, yes, you could make a database of that.
Yeah.
So I gotta kind of fall down on.
Go ahead.
I gotta kind of fall down the side of. I think that he should probably leave them in their inactive state. Just because I think for the purposes of using Earth space dock, it would just be so time-consuming to try and replace all of those objects. Yeah, the consoles won't turn on, but unless you're really specific, like you have a story element that requires that they interact with that specific console, it's not really going to be a focus for the mission.
Yeah, I think I'd prefer to have him in there, just because if you think about how you're going to use the map, it's probably a lot easier just to have the parts baked in, and then if you can put in other objects to cover them up or something like that.
There are certain objects in ESD that I can see a reason why you would want to cut out. Those, of course, being the sliding doors, because let's face it, sliding doors that are stuck in the closed position stink.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
That is what Taco found out when the first time he tried to put a map in the Foundry, which was Utopia Planitia, is that the doors locked closed.
Right.
One of the conference rooms in Utopia Planitia it has them stuck closed. The other one has them stuck open.
Although I will say I would miss the door to the Club 47, because that's an awesome door.
Well, hopefully, I mean, he's talking about with a lot of the ships, adding those in as separate objects.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like him to add the doors in too.
The Club 47 door I'd like to have as a Foundry asset anyway, so this is a perfect excuse for Taco to add that.
Yeah, he did
point.
mention. He mentioned especially the shuttles that fly around, and
Hmm.
essentially lifting those out and making them an asset. So they would just fly
Yeah.
in a circle, and you could put them on any map.
It would be great if we could add them as air traffic, because as someone has pointed out in the previous occasion, the only thing that we have to do air traffic are these weird alien shuttles that look like they might be green technology, but I'm not really sure.
Isn't it from Defera or something like that?
Yeah, from Defera,
Yes,
from the
it's
city.
the sky traffic above the
Yeah.
Defera social zone.
Yeah.
It might be
I'm
the
not-
ferry shuttles,
Which works
but
great
they
if you
look
have like
big,
a. It works great if you have if you're on an alien planet or something, but it doesn't look very Federation, does it?
Yeah, you kind of got to put them at like a really high altitude to make them not look immediately recognizable as alien design.
Ooh,
Yeah, because they're like two-dimensional.
that reminds me. I forgot to mention one thing about the Dust to Dust mission earlier. The Talarian Battlestar ship model got used for something again. Do you know what?
What was it?
Okay, in the first map where you're fighting the Vadwar before the flagship gets taken over by Jeten, you actually see a few small Kobali support ships that use the Talarian ship model.
You mean the same one that they used like 4 or 5 times in TNG for different ships?
Believe it or not, that ship model has actually been in Star Trek Online probably since beta. Granted, the initial use they found for it is one of the NPC contacts that roams the Sirius sector block. But, it's...
I think we may even have it in the Foundry.
Yes,
one
we do.
of the generic ships, yeah. Generic frigate or something like that?
Yes, it actually used to be something that you could fight when you had when you did one of the exploration cluster missions and you got something that wasn't a major power. Because all of the minor powers that you would encounter in the exploration clusters used the same set of ships. And it included that.
So something I would love to see him break off and put in as individual assets is all of those full-size starships sitting in the bay.
Well, I think we
those would
definitely
be
like
good.
that.
I mean, how many scenarios would you love to see where you're meeting up with such and such starship and it's just docked, so you can see it in the bay or something like
That
that?
would be
Well,
awesome.
It's like
That
the
would be
hero
great.
shot for a mission.
Or
One
outside.
thing that was mentioned from Legacy of Romulus is there's that one mission where during the mission you see this big old Alachi Sheshar dreadnought that's kind of like, it's not in orbit. It is using anti-grav to float above the city.
Yeah, it's attacking Viranet. Or
Yeah.
I think it shows up in
Not
Cataris too.
Viren, Craterus.
I think you see it both places.
Yeah. You know what? I think you're right about that. I think it does show up both places.
It's been a while since I haven't skipped the Viranet mission. The tutorial.
But
Well,
that
yeah.
that would also be something that would be nice, because you have that whole ominous. You look up and you're like, oh crap, sort of a moment.
Well, and while we're at it, the landed Klingon bird of prey would be a good one, and there have been some Klingon ships that have displayed outside the Klingon shipyards as well. So I mean, there's any number of full-size ships that would be awesome to have as ground assets.
Actually, the Romulan flotilla. Go to the Romulan flotilla, find a window, and look out the window.
Yep, I think there's some there as well.
Oh, I got like an entire collection right there.
Pretty much.
Actually, if you go through that, it's like most of the ships in the game, except even some of the alien ships.
So, Taco, if you're listening, obviously we've just given you enough work to keep you busy until the end of time.
But if you have time,
Yeah,
doubt that.
if you happen to have some time, or if they schedule some more time for the Foundry for you, since Club 47 is done, there's something you could fill it with. But in any case, we're happy to hear that he's putting ESD in the Foundry in whatever version he sees fit to do it at, whatever decision he makes. So, but for tonight, I think we will end it there. So, Dragoon, if you want to throw up our contact info.
Okay. We can be reached at email at foundryroundtable@live.com, although apparently Drogon never checks it.
Never checks.
But we can also be
Exactly.
reached on Twitter at Foundry Roundtab, and I check that much more frequently than Drogon.
Somebody's got to check it.
Drogon can be reached at Drogon1701, so you should send him a tweet if you happen to send him an email so he knows.
Yes.
Mark can be reached at Markhawkman, and I can be reached at Greendragoon, and of course Rogue.
Yes, I'm in game at Rogueenterprise and Twitter on at Rogueenterprise as well.
Well, at least you're consistent.
I am indeed.
Be sure to include him in all non-relevant, very long Twitter chains.
No.
Yes.
No, I do not want to get sucked into these crazy Twitter conversations. I like simple, clean, straightforward tweets.
But they're fun.
All right, everyone, you have your marching orders. Tweet Rogue Enterprise at all opportunities, but for now, we will say goodnight. Or
Wait,
good night.
wait,
Good night.